Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship in 2024. So we're now in the round 5 of this epic chess tournament, and in the round 5 we had really interesting match between Denis Lazavik against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus before the round 5 gained 1 win and 3 draws. Nothing dramatic, I would say, but I would also say that probably Magnus Carlsen was not satisfied with the outcome of his first 4 games because in these 4 rounds he played also against much lower rated opponents. I think Magnus expected to have their easy wins, but okay, nothing dramatic. Still, before this game against Denis Lazavik, Magnus didn't lose any games, but in order to keep up with the leaders, Magnus had to now start really to win some games. Denis Lazavik, on the other hand, I think really an interesting player, a great attacker, a really sharp tactician. He played also an awesome, a brilliant champion chess tour finals in 2024 that we could follow last week on chess.com. So here, really interesting battle. Denis and Magnus Carlsen already played also in the champion chess tour. Let's see now what happened in this beautiful game between these two top grandmasters. And at the end of the video, I'm going to reveal, of course, the current standings after the first day of the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship in 2024. So, with white, Denis Lazavik opened with the move d4. We have now the move d5 by Magnus, c4, the Queen's Gambit, Slav defense with c6. After c takes d5, e takes d5, we have reached now the exchange variation, which is, I think, a natural approach. Usually you can delay the c takes d5 in a different way. You can play a couple of more moves, and then with knight to f3, knight to c3, you could then go into the delayed exchange. But I think the exchange variation of the Slav defense is really a powerful weapon if you play against a much stronger opponent, because the problem for black is here that white gained already the symmetrical position, and white is always faster in development, of course, within the one extra move. Nothing dramatic, I would say. Again, nothing spectacular is going on now on the board, but if you want to maybe squeeze a solid position in the early stage of the opening, the exchange variation is really pretty fine. So knight to c3, we have knight to f6, and now bishop to f4. Knight to c6 by Magnus, e3, and now a6. And now I really loved here Denis' approach when he played rook to c1. This move is a more flexible move than maybe to play the move knight to f3, which would be usually a natural idea. But in the symmetrical positions, when you have this symmetrical pawn structure, when you see 2 pawns on this side of the board, 2 pawns in the center of the board, and also 3 pawns on the king side, then there are a couple of positional threats that could happen, maybe with move bishop to g4, and then after h3, bishop to f3, queen to f3. I want you to point you out in those lines in which we even give up the bishop for knight. The knights are even, I would say, equal to bishops, because the position is probably not going to explode. The position is so static, the position is so symmetrical that the bishops have really tough time in the continuation of the game. Then black would probably continue with e6, and also with bishop to d6 can even go for the trades of the dark square bishop. So that's why the move rook to c1 is a more flexible approach here by Denis Lazavik, which is not allowing maybe here black to proceed with the immediate bishop to g4. This move can be met with f3, and then you can also try h4, which would be very unpleasant maybe here to handle for black. The engine gives here quality, but I would say white could have really great chances with g4, h5, and similar stuff. Okay, after rook to c1, which was, I think, a great theoretical move by Denis Lazavik, Magnus continues with bishop to f5, and now knight to f3. Now, when Magnus exposed himself with the bishop move, now it's time for development, because probably black is not going to play now bishop to g4 anymore, because you don't want to play, of course, with the same piece twice in the early state of the game. Magnus continues normal development, and now Denis plays this attacking idea with queen to b3. My preparation when I played the exchange variation with the black pieces is this line to continue with bishop to b4. That also meets with the idea that we have discussed, that the bishops are not so dangerous in this symmetrical position. In one moment you can even after a3 give up maybe here the bishop for a knight, and then after b takes c3 or queen to c3 you have knight to e4. Look at this, if b takes c3 happens, still knight to e4 makes perfect sense. Then you can also try something like b5, then I don't know, knight to b5, knight to a5, knight to c4 is an interesting line. So you would simply have a great grip here from black's perspective on light score. So I think really one of the interesting approaches here against this queen to b3 idea is this solid bishop to b4. But Magnus is Magnus. Magnus plays, of course, more complicated chess. He played now rook to a7, protected simply the pawn in a different way, and keeps now his flexibility with the dash with bishop. Denis continues with bishop to e2, and Magnus plays bishop to e7. Carlsen, and now Magnus goes all in. Magnus plays now really the most aggressive line that is possible now. Magnus goes with knight to d7, and the idea is clear. We want to play g5, g4. We want to attack this side of the board. Denis allows that with knight to a4, and Magnus continues, of course, with his plan with the move g5. And now things are getting crazy all over the board. So here, after move g5, the best way for white is to proceed with bishop to g3. You have to wait. Even if black continues now with an aggressive h5, then you have this beautiful counterattack with knight to c5, because black cannot proceed with h4. This wouldn't be so good. Then you have this beautiful knight takes b7 attack against here the queen. Even if rook to b7, queen takes b7, you're trying something like this, but still also the knight is hanging. So in this tactical sequence, white is winning decisive material. So this not working. After knight to b7, you're trying maybe queen to a8, but now you have this in between check, king to f8. Now you pick up this one, and I wanted to show you also here a very important line after bishop to g3 that actually black cannot push just pawns here with h5, h4, and similar stuff, because white has great counterplay on the queen side. But okay, instead of bishop to g3, what Denis Lazavik played, he played now a mistake in the game. He played now bishop to e5, and this move is not good because Magnus could have immediately taken this bishop with knight to e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, and here black should be slightly better with the bishop paired now in an asymmetrical position where the pawns are not symmetrical anymore, where black has here the opportunity maybe to push the pawn on b5. I would say black is taking over here. Of course, not completely winning, but I would always love now to play this position more from black's perspective. But okay, here Magnus, instead of knight to e5, he played now castling and allowed now Denis Lazavik to get back into the game. Denis noticed his mistake that he played in the first place with bishop to e5. It played now bishop to g3. Magnus plays now the move h5, which was really unnecessary. This attacking method is not working anymore because Denis has a calm h3, and now Magnus exposed simply his king too much here by pushing the pawn. So what a better choice was for Magnus maybe was to slow down a little bit the pace of the game, play a solid bishop to g6, h6, maybe then f5 or something, knight to f6, knight to e4 is an option, maybe even b5 in some lines is a possibility, but here h5 was simply too aggressive. Denis plays a calm h3, and Magnus continues now with g4, just trying to push this position to the limit. And now, of course, after h takes g4, h takes g4, knight to h2, here white should be better because of this weak pawn on g4, and Magnus is trying to defend his pawn with knight to f6. After knight to f6, Denis, of course, continues with an attack against this weak pawn on g4, and Magnus goes with knight to e4, bishop to f4, bishop to g5, and now one pawn is lost. Suddenly, this game becomes really one-way ticket in white's favor. Bishop to f4, e takes f4. Okay, these pawns are here doubled on the f-file. This is a weakness, but of course, Denis Lazavik gained the pawn, and still white has a clear attack maybe against black's king. Magnus simply pushed the pawns too much in front of the king, and now also the king is in danger. And Magnus continues now again just to push the position with king to g7. In order to stay in the game, you have to say, okay, I made maybe a mistake, now let's fight for a draw with bishop to g6. This was the only chance maybe to go for this weakness on d4 and also for the weakness on f4. But Magnus again pushed it somehow. He tried to prove some kind of a point of this attack, which is basically not working. King to g7, bishop to f5. Denis Lazavik simply trades off more pieces and plays now beautiful g3, which is not allowing maybe the main attacking method here for black. Black is trying here to play queen to h4, rook to h8, and maybe build a battery on the h file and trying to spice up the game somehow by even threatening some checkmates. But g3, pretty solid move. Rook to h8, knight to f3. Magnus is including now this other rook into the game. King to g2, good improvement, which allows here Denis Lazavik, of course, to compete against the rook on the h file. We have queen to f6, knight to c3. Now Magnus has to again play a passive move with rook to d8, and now queen to d3, liberating now the first rank, connecting now the rooks, and now the rooks can of course compete on the h file, maybe trade off everything and go then into a favorable endgame, because still Magnus is somehow overloaded, of course, to the defense of the d5 pawn. Rook to h5, rook to h1, queen to h6, and now queen to e3, rook to h8, and now Denis Lazavik simply took, queen to h5, and now knight to h4, cutting off now this h-file attack, and also going for the f5 weakness here in black's position. Knight to f6 by Magnus, and now rook to h1. King to f8 here by Magnus Carlsen. Really bad move, but in any of these lines, I would dare to say white is completely winning, even if you try rook to h6 and queen to e1. Again, going maybe rook to h3, queen to h1, going for, I don't know, fully trades off pieces. I think this is perfectly fine. Even if knight to d4 happens, then we have queen to e5, knight takes d5 is an option, so too much pressure here against black's king. But Magnus played the rook to h1. After rook to h1, he played king to f8, which allowed here Denis Lazavik a simple tactic with knight to g6, simply going for the fork. You want to have, of course, the queen cleared out of this h-file attack. You have to play queen to g6, and now rook to h8 is winning decisive material. Again, completely winning position here for Denis. But after king to f8, here Denis Lazavik tried queen to d3. Still, white is again much better, but knight to g6 was an immediate win. But still here, this is a weakness on f5, this is also a weakness on d5. Magnus is trying to hold the position somehow, and now finally knight to g6, the move that we have discussed, is now again simply winning the game here for Denis. Even if you try king to g7 again, this knight to f5 move is working. Even if you try king to e7 again, knight to f5 is winning the game. So very bad position for Magnus Carlsen. After knight to e7, now comes this idea. Denis took now the queen, and we have now reached this position in which, okay, Magnus has some kind of a compensation with the rook and the knight against the queen, but the queen is too open here. The king is also endangered on f8, so not a good position for sure here for black. Knight to e2, king to f7, and now knight to f3 is Denis Lazavik's idea to get the knight on a beautiful square. On the square e5, h4, g takes h4, and now Denis protects now the f4 weakness. King to g6, and now queen to b3. Good move. Of course, the knight is controlling both of the pawns on the f file, and now Denis Lazavik has a clear path for the queen. The queen can play now freely and attack now all of the weaknesses in black's position. Knight to c6, now comes queen takes b7. Denis takes on another pawn. Magnus delivers a check, but nothing spectacular. Rook to h4, queen to d3, and you see now white has this clear path of the pawns. Magnus is of course trying somehow to battle in this position, but now a new check. Then Magnus has to cover. Queen to e3, rook to h4, queen to e6. Magnus also picks up now the knight, but now after king to a2, rook to h1, Denis Lazavik simply pushed the pawn further. Now he included the queen into the game, played now queen to b5, and in this particular position, Magnus Carlsen resigns. So crazy game. I'm not sure what to say. Magnus somehow pushed this attack too much. He was too confident into this idea that he could maybe just launch the attack without securing his king. Denis Lazavik gained a pawn, picked up a pawn, defended this position in a great way, and is now the deserved winner of this beautiful game between him and Magnus Carlsen from the round 5 of the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship in 2024. So, okay, let's see now the current standings. The current standings are really crazy because the leader of this event after 5 rounds is here, Volodar Murzin, which is a huge surprise, I would say, here in this tournament. Also, what's really crazy, Daniel Naroditsky is also sharing the first place. Daniel Naroditsky, of course, a great YouTuber also, and I wish him all of the best. It would be great for Daniel to make a huge result. He's now even battling for the first place. If he continues to push his position in a good way, he could be maybe the very a great winner. Dominguez Perez Lanier is also great. Look at this, also 4.5 points, and Shant Sargsyan from Armenia, also interesting player. So far, of course, nothing is cleared, but the Magnus Carlsen, after 5 rounds, has only 2.5 points. Alireza Firouzja, who was one of my favorites, is now on the place 30 with 3.5 points. But you see, anything can change. Still 8 more rounds will be played. Magnus Carlsen will probably have a great day tomorrow because he has to now push the position. But really, so far, it's not working for him. We have now maybe a new winner of the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship in this year. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Interesting stuff here by Denis Lazavik in the exchange variation of the Slav defense. If you want to see also a beautiful game that we have covered by Magnus Carlsen from the round 2, here's also the link to the video. Please check it out. It's also a brilliant attack by Magnus. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.